I am in university right now, but staying with my parents at their house for the summer. I was hanging out with one of my friends and we decided to go to a party. I met this guy around my age. We were talking and having fun, but it was nothing too serious, or so I thought. We exchanged phone numbers. We hung out a couple of times, but he became incredibly clingy right from the start, so I decided to distance myself in the hope that he would get the hint and back off. Well, he didn't. When I stopped responding, he sent me over 100 messages, with each message becoming increasingly more aggressive as time went on. Keep in mind it had been less than 2 weeks since we first met. I finally responded and told him he needed to chill out. He appeared to calm down a bit after I responded, but he then asked for a phone call. I agreed, and we talked for a while. He told me that he couldn't stop thinking about me, that I was the best thing that ever happened to him, etc. Just a bunch of stuff that is way too intense to say to someone you barely know. I tried to let him down gently, reminding him that I was only home for the summer and wasn't looking for anything serious beyond a fling, but this only made him angrier. He started yelling at me, insulting me, calling me a slut, basically a complete 180 from what he had been saying mere minutes ago. Then all of a sudden the phone went silent. After a pause, he said in a quiet voice, "Bitch, you had better get ready because I am coming over for you." And then he hung up the phone. This was very frightening because he knew my parents were out of town for the week, and that I was staying at their house alone. However, he didn't know where my parents' house was because I was always the one driving, and he didn't know my friend either, so I thought he had no way of figuring it out. Since, again, I'm normally living at school in another state. Regardless, I locked all the doors and shut the blinds just in case. After a while, maybe an hour or so, I fell asleep. When I woke up, I looked at my phone and saw a notification on my lock screen. It was from the Ring app, indicating there had been movement on my parents' camera. It was him. If you watch the video, you can clearly see something in his hand. When he notices the camera, however, he left. I immediately blocked him on everything and reported the incident. I have no idea what he planned to do once he got here. It was terrifying to realize that he had come over when I was asleep and defenseless, and completely unaware of his presence. As I would later find out, he was able to get my address from my phone number. Apparently he Googled it, and it returned my dad's name as the owner of the phone number, along with my parents' address. Since I am on my parents' phone plan, I guess it shows up that I still live here. This revelation was fucking horrifying, as I never knew my phone number could reveal my home address. I am still extremely upset that this kind of private information is on the internet for anyone to find, as it incredibly dangerous that websites will just give this away to anyone. Please learn from my mistakes, and do not give anyone your phone number unless you trust them. I found out that you can get a free Google Voice number to text and call people, and that number can't be traced back to you so easily. My advice is to use a disposable number for anyone you're talking to that you meet informally or online. I still can't sleep at night. Hopefully this never happens to anyone else. I came home around 12 a.m. to the house I share with 4 roommates. When walking on the sidewalk, I noticed a man across the street facing the other side, seemingly doing nothing. I passed by and entered my house, locking the door, and went to the kitchen, passing one of my roommates on the living room couch. The hallway from the front doorway opens into the living room and then to the kitchen. When I left the kitchen, I saw a dark outline through the door window and stopped to focus my eyes. My couch roommate looked at me confused, as I had just stopped in my tracks. The outer door was open and the man from across the street was looking in, and then started turning the knob. As I heard the knob start rattling, I said something like, "There's a fucking guy at our door!" My roommate got up from the couch alarmed, and we together got closer to the door. I could see the man's face clearer now, pressed up against the door window. His face was blank. He had long oily hair and pockmarks on his cheeks. His expression made me feel incredibly uncomfortable, as it seemed he was looking through us, with no recognition of us. My roommate called down to my basement roommate to make sure his door leading to the backyard was locked. I got closer to the man as he kept trying the handle to go upstairs and alarm my other roommate. When we came back down, the man wasn't at the door, so we peered out the window to see him standing in our walkway looking across the street again. Reflecting on this, I'm just happy I remembered to lock the door, because we'd often stupidly forget and spend the night with the door unlocked. I can imagine if the door was unlocked, and had he stepped into our house, I wonder how this would have went. I think about how he would probably have walked through the hallway, and my roommate on the couch would just see this stranger walk into our living room and scare the shit out of him. Most likely this guy was drugged out by the way his expression was, but who knows what intentions he had. Let's not meet. I honestly don't know how to begin or deal with this entire situation. To keep it short, I've been touched in my sleep by him for 4 times now, and throughout them all, my mother hasn't really done anything about it but yell at him through text. She'd send me a screenshot, but that was it. It's a little infuriating since he'd manipulate her into thinking he was just putting a blanket over me, to which I replied, "Who the hell is he to put one on me? And are you just going to ignore the fact he went in my room?" He also guilt-tripped her, saying, "We can't do much if that's what she thinks, because you know I'm not one to do that. Let her be, just pretend to be mad at me when we come home." She acted poorly, it was way too obvious. Mind you, I've gone through past situations with family members, grandfather and cousin. I can't exactly leave the home since I'm honestly not prepared to live alone yet, and I'm still saving up. No matter how much I barricade my room, he'd get inside. I had to hide and change my toothbrush because it's always used. I always had to wear a bra even in my sleep. I'm seriously reaching my limit. I woke up one day to the sound of a kiss close to me. I thought to myself, my mother wasn't home because she was at work by 6 a.m. I continued to pretend to be sleeping, and I heard him whisper, "I love you," close to my face. I'd never been so creeped out to the point I trembled. The next day my mother was away again. I bought so many locks, and yet he was still able to get in. I woke up, continued to pretend to be sleeping, and jolted my eyes open to see him sitting there watching my face up close. He scrambled out of the door. That's when I knew I had to do something, and I'm not safe anymore. I sleep with a weapon on me now every night. I never told my mother about these recent behaviors because I know she won't believe me, sadly, or do anything serious about it. So if it ever happens again, I'm going to have to muster up all my courage to stand up for myself and confront him again. By the way, this man-child has no contribution at all to the house. He's an IRL leech. I buy groceries and pay bills while my mother pays rent. This incident occurred back in late 2021. I was currently serving in the military stationed in California, and I lived off base at this time. It was around 9 p.m. when I was driving home from work. I pulled into my apartment parking garage, and I noticed a guy I have never seen before and knew he did not live here, just standing there leaning against one of the support columns, just staring through my windshield. I tried to gauge what his intentions were by giving the old Midwest "hey" by raising my fingers over my steering wheel. I got nothing, just a blank stare right at me. At this moment I knew something wasn't right. I tried to weigh my options in my head. I can awkwardly back out of the very small parking garage and do a few laps around the neighborhood. I could call my roommate and tell him to come down, strength in numbers you know, or I can be a tough and brave military man. I decided to stop overthinking it and just deal with it in my own. I backed into my parking space, all the while this guy is directly across from my parking spot just staring at me. I again do the Midwest finger wave over the steering wheel with zero reaction from the guy. I grit my teeth and get out of my car and start walking towards the only staircase up to my apartment, which he is standing directly in front of. So I obviously have to walk right past him. I start approaching and say, "Hey, how's it going?" just to gauge his friendliness one more time, and got absolutely nothing. So at this point I'm thinking I'm gonna get either stabbed in the neck or shot in the back of the head when I pass him, but nothing happened. I realized I was just overthinking it, and began walking up the stairs to my apartment. I get about a quarter of the way up when I hear running behind me. I started to run up the stairs, skipping a few steps and completely eat it, cutting my hands and bleeding, but at this point I didn't care at all. I got up and kept going up the stairs and got to my door. This scene was honestly straight out of a horror movie, me trying to get my key in the door when I turn and see him running up the stairs. It honestly feels like it was all in slow motion. I thankfully got the key in and was able to get inside the house, but my motor skills were not all there at this point, so I was struggling to lock the door. I braced it with my foot while he tried getting, and I was able to lock it. He started messing with the door handle and banging on the door while I went and woke my roommate up. I grabbed my gun from bedroom and we both just sat in the living room waiting. After about a minute of this we decided to call 911, and in about 3 minutes, around 10 squad cars pulled up and searched the whole area. The guy was nowhere to be found. While finishing my contract in California, I was paranoid every time I went down to that garage. I still don't know what his intentions were to this day, and that's honestly the part that irks me the most.